Ever since I played Resident Evil 2 way back on PS1, I've always had this question in the back of my mind. Could you actually survive an outbreak in a police station? If you're more into movies or books, maybe you've wondered the same thing while watching those flicks or flipping through post-apocalyptic thrillers. Either way, today we're breaking down the pros and cons of trying to survive an outbreak inside of a police station. Before we get into the thick of it, let's set the stage. The zombies we are dealing with here are your classic walkers. Slow, relentless, and dumb, but dangerous in numbers. Just your quintessential zombie. As for the police station, you didn't pick this place. You were already here in the police station when the outbreak hit. Maybe you were in the lobby, a holding cell, or just passing through. Point is, you didn't plan to hole up in here. But now the doors are locked, and survival depends on what's already around you. So how good is a police station for surviving the apocalypse? Let's break it down. Police stations are one of the few places where you might find firearms, ammo, and tactical gear in bulk. Pistols, shotguns, maybe even a rifle or two. Some are in the armory, others are in evidence. No need to break into a gun store or pry one off a corpse. You're ahead of the curve just by being here. Bite protection is rare, but here, you've got access to actual riot shields, face visors, Kevlar, vests, and even full suits. Most survivors are getting swarmed and torn apart in hoodies and jeans. Riot gear lets you move through crowds, push zombies back, and maybe even escape situations that would be certain death for anyone else. While not stocked like the hospital, a police station still usually has emergency kits designed for trauma. You might find burn kits, trauma bags, tourniquets, AEDs, Narcan, antiseptics, gloves, gauze, even oxygen tanks. There might also be a few prescription drugs in the evidence locker, or non-prescription drugs, so you could put that Narcan to use. You're not just locking a door and hoping for the best. Police stations are built for containment. They have reinforced entry points, steel holding cells, security cameras, and automated lockdown systems that give you the kind of situational awareness and control that no grocery store or warehouse can. Most modern police stations are also equipped with backup generators, at least for critical systems like communication, lighting, and electronic locks, but they rely on fuel and maintenance. If the generator fails or runs dry, you're out of luck. Forget the Walmart walkie-talkie. You've got access to dispatch radios, possibly even encrypted long-range communication channels. This gives you a serious edge in tracking emergency broadcasts, coordinating looting trips, or even finding other survivors. So what's in here? Whatever people get arrested with, basically. One guy gets arrested with a crowbar, another with night vision goggles, someone else with a trunk full of fireworks. It's like a random loot drop from the dumbest criminals alive. And if you're lucky, you might find something weirdly useful. Or something to make the end of the world a bit more enjoyable, if you know what I mean. Police stations are designed to keep threats out and people in. That works in your favor. Minimal entrances, tight layouts, and thick walls mean fewer angles to defend. Holding cells can be used to isolate bitten survivors or even sleep safely. Some police stations include basements or rooftop access for fallback points or observation. You might be able to find the keys hanging up in the office or locked in a drawer somewhere. If you do find them, you now have a moving wall of steel between you and whatever's chasing you out there. On average, police vehicles are better maintained than civilian cars, so if you find one with keys and fuel, you can usually rely on it to get from point A to B. If any police personnel survive the initial chaos, they won't just be armed. They might have experience using their weapons under pressure, especially after how their shift started. Most have formal training in first aid and crisis response as well. But beyond that, they're used to making tough calls under pressure, keeping people calm and staying focused during chaos. Okay, hope you weren't getting too comfortable, because now we're going to have a look at the cons, and see how good the police station really is. This place was never a bunker, it was an office. If an infected person collapsed in holding, or an officer got bitten during intake, you're already compromised. You might not realize how many infected are actually in the building until the screaming starts. If the outbreak caught the station off guard, there could be infected prisoners locked in their cells. It's even possible the uninfected prisoners were trapped with people who hadn't turned yet. So if you plan to hunker down here, it's going to fall on you to deal with this. Not to alarm you, but there might even be more who aren't in their cells at all. They could be roaming the halls, slumped behind desks, or quietly waiting inside dark offices. Either way, you'll have to clear them out. If you wait too long, you'll be clearing them out while they're flooding down tight hallways, and that's not a good time to figure out who's still breathing. If you don't clear them early, you're living with a ticking time bomb just 10 feet away. Most stations are smack in the middle of population centers. That means more infected nearby, more chaos, and when the looters start targeting weapon-rich locations, you're on the top of everyone's list. Desperate people are going to assume there's guns and gear inside, and technically speaking, they're not wrong. And unlike zombies, people can use tools, climb, flank, and outthink your defenses. If the grid goes down, you've got a mixed bag. Some electronic locks are designed to stay locked during the outage. Others might default to unlocking for fire safety reasons. You won't know what type you're dealing with until your power dies. To make matters worse, no power means no ventilation, no lighting, no water pressure, and no surveillance. Unless there's a functioning generator and fuel to run it, your tactical advantage disappears fast. And yes, that applies for your backup generator as well. It needs fuel to run. You might find a vending machine or leftover snacks in the break room, but that buys you a few days at best. And police stations aren't exactly prepped for growing crops or storing rainwater. And no running water means no drinking, no cleaning wounds, and no bathroom use. Fortunately, you could always take a dump off the edge of the building. And if you have roof access, if you manage to scavenge soil, containers, and seeds, it might be possible to grow small plants. But that's a slow process, and it won't solve your problem anytime soon. But if you do decide to stay here long term, that is an option. As I mentioned earlier, there's no water running through the pipes. And if you zoom out a bit, it gets a lot worse. You're in a dead zone of concrete and asphalt. No rivers, no wildlife, and no edible plants. Hunting and foraging, forget about it. You're boxed in by an urban sprawl. Once the nearby stores and apartments are stripped clean, you're on your own. Depending on the police station, a lot of the inner areas might have no windows. Once the power goes out, even during the day, the station can become pitch black without artificial light, making navigation dangerous and draining your flashlight batteries faster than you'd like. If something breaches the police station in the middle of the night, you might end up in a world of trouble. If you've been watching my videos, you already know how often I talk about sanitation. And that's because it's not just gross, it's dangerous. Toilets and waste bins will fill up fast. No water pressure means no flushing, no hand washing, and no way to clean up the mess around that place. This mostly applies if you don't have rooftop access, or a second floor with a window you could safely dump out of. And I do mean both dumpings. Technically, you could do it on the first floor, but I don't know if you'd really want to do that. Assuming there's stuff roaming outside, that is. Human waste can build up quickly in a sealed space like this. And once it starts, it doesn't stop. The smell becomes unbearable. The air turns toxic. Without proper disposal, you risk turning your safe house into a disease pit. Add in the rotting corpses of the infected or prisoners who didn't make it, and now you've got the perfect breeding ground for illness. You might survive the zombies early on, only to choke to death on the stench of your own waste and rot. You're locked in confined space, surrounded by death, noise, and fear. People stop thinking clearly. Paranoia builds. Small arguments explode. If you're with others, stress can fracture the group. If you're alone, it eats you alive. And I know some people think being alone isn't a big deal, especially those first few weeks when adrenaline is still carrying you. But once things settle and your new reality sinks in, it hits you. It's just you and the endless echoes of the dead. It never stops. You'll end up sleeping with one eye open, always on edge, because there's no one watching your back. No one to wake you if something breaks through. Short term, the police station is a fortress. You've got defense, supplies, and structure. But you can't eat bulletproof glass and you can't drink pepper spray. Eventually, you'll have to venture out. And when you do, you're starting from the middle of a hot zone. Nearby looting might get you a few essentials, assuming there's even anything left to take, but you're surrounded by the densest part of the city. Not great odds, but not impossible either, especially if you got that riot gear. That said, with the right group and enough time, a police station can be turned into a viable long-term base. Some of them have gates, reinforced doors, layered defenses, and limited entry points. This makes them easier to defend than most places. But you need a way to store food, collect or filter water, and manage waste. Power is also a ticking clock unless you've got a generator and a steady fuel supply. It's not the most comfortable place either, and it's definitely not sustainable without upgrades, but as far as urban fallback points go, it's one of the better ones. And it might not be comfortable, but it's better than being dead. Okay, final rating, so is it worth staying? Well, first let's have a look at the main pillars of survival. These are shelter, water, and food. If we look at the police station from a shelter standpoint, it's strong. Police stations are built like fortresses. Now if we look at it from a water standpoint, it's weak. As we've already stated, there's no running water, and once the pressure goes out, you're kind of screwed. You'll need to rely on bottled water or find a way to collect rainwater. As for food, That's also weak. You've got a few vending machines and whatever was left behind. It might buy you a few days, but long-term food supply is non-existent. So with that in mind, it's excellent for short-term survival. Terrible for the long haul. Once your supplies dry up, it becomes a concrete coffin. Solo survivor rating. I'm going to give the police station a 2 out of 5. The police station has a lot of stuff for you. Alone, you're still going to burn out fast. But on the bright side, alone you can move quietly, use less food, and avoid group conflict. But you'll exhaust yourself clearing rooms, making barricades, and holding watch. You're also trapped with 0 resupply options. Not unless you go out scavenging on your own in a zombie-infested city. The police station will help you survive the outbreak early on, but long term, you probably shouldn't be here. Group survival rating, I give it a 3 out of 5. More people equals more manpower. You can divide the roles, fortify the base faster, defend more effectively, but you burn through supplies faster, and conflict and infection risks also increase. The extra muscle stretches survival time, but it doesn't fix the resource issue. So if we look at the rule of 3, all we're really getting here is shelter. Water and food are really bad. Alright, now I want to hear from you guys. What would you do differently? Drop a comment below. This channel is still new and growing, and your engagement lets me know if you guys want to see more of this kind of content. So consider leaving a like or a comment, and if you're into this kind of zombie breakdown, consider subscribing. It might not save your life in a zombie outbreak, but it'll make prepping for the end of the world a lot more interesting. If you guys are still hungry for more, YouTube probably slapped a video up here that you might like. If you want to binge the content, here's a playlist. Somewhere right here. Until next time, guys. Cheers.